Thank you very much for asking me to introduce Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, written by Stephen R. Covey. We will quickly go over to a little information about the background and overview of the habits here. Stephen R. Covey, who is a retired professor now, was working in Harvard Business School during the 1970s while he was researching for his doctoral thesis, and he studied the success literature of last almost 200 years, and he very interestingly found that in last preceding 150 years the success literature was more character oriented. It emphasized the deeper principles like integrity, humility, honesty, trust and industry, and the philosophy which he called was character ethics. So during the last half of 20th century, he noticed that the trend and the practices were changed from character to personality, and people started giving more emphasis towards the development of personality, which was more directed towards techniques and learning and appearances and positive thinking and things like that. The problem here with the personality ethic was that unless the basic underlying paradigms of character were changed, the change on apparent personality was not long lasting as was not effective. And during this time, he also noted that the character ethics, which were the basis of development of the whole of the person, was the long lasting thing. And there was a stark difference between the practices and the principles, because the principles were timeless and always true, whereas the practices and the personality traits were changing with the time. Okay, now let's have a quick overview of these habits. What are they? As you know, there are 7 habits among the, and they are actually not an isolated or piecemeal practices. If you notice in this diagram, they are arranged in a very specific manner with the geometrical divisions, and I will explain them one by one. So the first habit was being proactive, and the second habit is begin with end in mind, while the third is putting the first things first. You notice that it's on the broader base, and then it is this end is apexing like a pyramid with a broader base than at the summit. And the other 3 habits are habit number 4 is thinking win-win situations, win-win solutions, and the 5th habit is seeking first to understand, then to be understood, and 6th is synergizing, while the 7th is an overall habit encompassing everything in between, and that is sharpening the saw. You will notice that our character is a collection of our habits, and habits have powerful role in our lives. Good habits always lead us to the successful life, and while the bad habits probably are less helpful in our lives to success. And these habits which Covey described are not again isolated things, and they have a very systemic way. As I said before, that these habits are not independent, they are sequential and integrated, and they move us through the following stages of maturity, which is a constant upward ever enlarging spiral. If you look closely, these are, the first stage is dependence. The paradigm here is that we are born relying upon others to take care of us. This is dependence. And when we practice and internalize the 3 habits, first 3 habits being proactive, beginning with end in our mind, and putting the first thing first, we move to the second stage of maturity, which is independence. Independence means that the paradigm here is making our own decision and making our own choices in our lives. And when we attain this level of maturity and internalize the other 3 habits, which are thinking of win-win and seeking first to understand and then to be understood, and synergizing with every decision or option we take, we move to the third stage, which is interdependence. The paradigm here is that with cooperation of other people, we can achieve much more which we probably are not able to achieve independently. Well, to make the choices between interdependence, we must have to be independent. And before we become independent, we need to exercise all these maturity habits, which are probably the first things. The first habits which focus on the personal development lead us to something which Kavi called private victory or self-mastery. And after, when we become independent by practicing and internalizing these first three habits, we move on to the next stage, which is interpersonal success, or which you can call a public victory. Our habits are the final total sum of our success in life, and of course this work of Kavi has introduced paradigms which are not just practices, but rather they are a mixture of principles which are timeless and ever true. On the basis of those principles, he has also suggested another three personality characteristics, which we call public victory or interpersonal success, that leads us to highly fulfilled life. Thank you very much.